So from a technology perspective, banks are something like going forward, banks will be a technology company with a banking license. That's how I see it, right? So technology will play a very big role in how the banking sector pans out in the next couple of, next 5 years to 10 years and going forward as well. So everything, in fact, if you look at any industry, the technology is a backbone for any industry now. And so it's also true for the banking, more so because it's a highly regulated industry and we require a lot of compliances to be met, which is done usually on a digital channel. From a long-term perspective, it's going to stay. Definitely technology, you'll have more innovations coming in. And you'll see that these innovations will be in line with what our India vision is, right? So Digital India initiative was taken way back in 2015. And since then, we have made a lot of strides. We have made a lot of inroads in terms of financial inclusion of the tier 2, tier 3, about tier 4 cities. A lot of people have come in and they have used the benefits from the technology which is provided by the various banks and BFSIs and other banks like rural sector banks and all of that. So that is one of the main crux of the banking sector, right? So banks are basically pillars of trust. So the customer data is absolutely secure, has to be secure. All the PII and SPIs of the banking data, not only mandated by regulator, but also from an industry perspective has to be very secure, right? And doing so, we have to see how our data is shared between our partners, right? What we are seeing the current trend is that banks in the distribution model, they're tying up with NBFCs and other Fintech companies, which are getting hooked onto the bank, right? In such cases, the bank data is also shared with them. Banks have to be careful in what is being shared and how it is being shared, where it is kept, so that all the regulatory guidelines and the compliance guidelines are met. Secondly is that there are not only from inside India, but outside India actors are also acting on very heavily on the banks, so that the reputation and the brand image of banks as well as India comes down. So we have to prevent that. So security is of utmost concern. There are many organizations in India who are helping the banks and the industry as a whole, as a nation as a whole, to keep it secure from external threats, whether it's individual or it's a state actor. We have set up a lot of security solutions and technology in place, not only in the banking sector, but other sectors as well. But of course, definitely the banking sector, because a lot of financial transactions go through that. We have made big inroads in the security technology. Details need not be given. We have made a lot of strides in the technology in the security areas. Any new technology, right? So the problem with the Indian banking system is that there is no common defined framework, right? So if you look at the matured countries or advanced countries, like we call them, what they have is that they have an organization-wide architecture or technology framework within which the systems need to work. Of course, they are vendor-dependent, vendor-driven. You have technologies coming from different partners. But in India, we don't have a common framework which the regulator also needs to put in, at least for the banking sector, right? So what would be your core banking solution? What would be your CRM? How would you do your large corporate credits? How would you do yours? The small sectors, the SRA area, the structured asset areas, all of that, right? So these things need to be thought about, and a framework has to be made. So for that's a big challenge, because right now what we're seeing is that the banking sector is completely vendor driven. Whoever vendor comes in and puts something in, people take it, right? And that's going to fudge the entire landscape, the architectural landscape, if you know what I'm talking about. So what happens if you not plug in things into, for example, if you give an example, usually give a civil engineering example. If you have a house, you cannot put another project outside the house just like that, right? So you need to have special thinking as to how it has to be fit out, some extra room you have to build. So you have to see how the architecture of the whole system is. Similarly, the whole thing, the engineering concept applies to the technology also in the banks. And we have to see that the manages the entire architecture. And things that you want to put in really are required. There's no duplication. And how you go to implement it, whether it's going to be used or not in a proper way. That's the one. Second is that when you do any testing or when you implement some technology, there has to be some test data. So how is the test data being used and how it is kind of similar to the actual data which will be used in a real life. That's very difficult to achieve because you cannot give the production or the actual data for testing, and neither use the testing data for production. So that's the problem. And that's a huge problem. Although we say there's huge amount of data getting generated every day, but for testing, we don't get seeing very small data. That's the biggest challenge in technology while implementing new solutions. So from a customer experience perspective, every bank is on the digital path, right? And from a customer experience perspective, we need to ensure that the journey of the customer is seamless. Second is that you need to have repeat visits from the customer, which you can do cross-sell, upsell, and all of those new stuff which is there. And right now, there's a trend in which you have one app which will connect to 4 other bank accounts that you have. So that's also something that we are seeing from a customer experience perspective, which is coming in. It will definitely help. You just go in, whether you're new to the bank, we call it NTB and ETB, existing to the bank and new to the bank. So even if you are new to the bank, you can do a lot of stuff on that app without actually being a customer. Similarly, if you are a customer, you can do even more because you're already verified, you're validated, authorized, authenticated, all of that. So you can do all of that using the new customer experience platforms that we are building.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.